I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. I need you to go to my PayPal link. I'm going to put a link in the description box below, because I need you to donate to my PayPal so I can do this show full time instead of just part time. Okay, back in the news story for you, and it is a suggestion from one of my viewers. I think it was a man. They said research the health impact of animals for the meat industry versus vegetation for life. And I got some information on that, but this is a pretty big topic, so this is going to be like 2 or 3 different videos. But I got one article here. It's from listverse.com. I'll put a link in the description box for this one below, because it's got a lot of information, and to just go over a lot of it, it's going to take a while. But of course, if you've researched it a little bit, the meat industry is pretty devastating for the environment for several different reasons. Alright, but let's start with number 10, that it's a leading cause of deforestation. Deforestation is one of the biggest problems facing the world today. Every second, 1 to 2 acres of rainforest are cleared, mostly in the Amazon. With the staggering loss of rainforest comes a variety of negative effects. Deforestation increases both the climatic instability and the amount of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. The destruction of the Amazon rainforest has also contributed to a staggering loss of biodiversity, with 137 species of animals and plants being lost every day. Not only is this extremely harmful to the planet, but also has a hypothetical impact on the human race. With that many plant species being lost, it is very possible that we're losing possible new drugs and cures to common diseases. I'll skip down a little bit. Shockingly, the major cause of Amazonian deforestation is the meat industry. Cattle require huge amounts of land to be raised, and that land has to come from somewhere. Since Brazil is one of the world's biggest beef exporters, their economies partly rely on the meat industry. As such, close to 70% of deforestation occurs as a direct result of the increasing demand for beef. Okay, I'll skip down a little bit, and some of it is that a lot of antibiotics are used in the animals that are raised for the meat industry. See, the meat industry is obviously dependent on keeping their animals alive until they're ready for slaughter. That means that the industry needs tons of antibiotics to fight off various diseases that could plague livestock. Farmers all around the world inoculate their animals, but by far the biggest users of antibiotics are U.S. meat producers. Since U.S. meat is shipped around the world, this causes some ethical concerns. I'll skip a paragraph right here. I'll go right here. An even greater threat to the world comes from antibiotic overuse. When a food already has antibiotics in it, bacteria get a testing ground to evolve into antibiotic-resistant superbugs. Since animals are given the same drugs that would otherwise go to humans, the superbugs that develop in the animals will automatically be resistant to the drugs that doctors use to treat human patients. I should do a news story about how we actually already have superbugs in our hospitals because our doctors and the pharmaceutical companies are just overusing, overprescribing antibiotics. But that's for a different story, for a different day. And here's a big one right here. Massive bribes to U.S. senators and reporters. So this meat is such a big part of national economies, the industry is tied up in politics. This is especially true in the United States, where the meat industry extends their influence out of the supermarket into the political realm. In the U.S., where candidates are not forced to disclose their monetary donations, the meat industry donates $10.8 million per year to political campaigns and spends almost $7 million directly lobbying federally elected officers. The coziness between American political leaders and meat lobbyists have caused a variety of problems. Because here's an interesting part right here. In 1977, Congress attempted to pass guidelines recommending the correct consumption of various food groups. When meat consumption was not listed high enough, lobbyists fought to either increase the illicit meat consumption or to completely shoot down the project, and they got what they wanted. Years later, when the FDA released the famous food pyramid, lobbyists fought to make it seem like meat was the most important part of one's diet. Okay, I'll skip down a little bit. Okay, and for number 7 they have, it's a leading contributor to droughts. Obviously, the meat industry needs to feed its animals until slaughter. full-grown cows and pigs consume massive amounts of water, as does providing the feed required to keep them alive. Just how much water is required for meat? Every pound of beef uses a staggering 2,500 gallons of water, which is roughly equal to taking a shower every day for 6 months. Much of the water goes into growing the food needed to keep the animals alive and at peak meat-giving weight. Only 2% of it is drank by the cows. In the United States, half of all water goes to supporting animal agriculture. And now we're actually having like real bad water problems with climate change. Different areas are having longer and harsher droughts than they ever had before. Like California's just had or is still having like one of the worst droughts they've had in decades. And just with the population just continually growing and freshwater only being like 1% of the available water on the earth, 99% salt water, it's really a very precious natural resource that we really have to conserve, because there's only 1% of it, and some of it is locked up in the frozen ice sheets in different parts of the world. So since it's frozen, we can't really use it. And desalination is very expensive and very energy intensive way to get salt out of water. But then you have the problem of what are you going to do with the salt? So fresh water is like very important, and consuming more meat just makes the problem even worse. So I'll probably cut off right here. There's a few other issues, but I also need to look at some environmental biology ebooks so I can really dig into some more issues that the meat agriculture has, especially digging into the water issue, because we really got to conserve water even more, because like I said, people that live in areas that don't get a lot of rain, they're really having a lot of issues with having water access. So I'm gonna do my research, find some more information, and also do another video going over the rest of these items right here, because there's still more information about how the meat industry is harming life on Earth, because we're just literally killing and just destroying habitats just so we could raise cattle.